Okay, to get us started, we're going to look at the most basic parts of a graph, which are your axes. And this axis that goes along the horizontal or left to right direction, that is your x-axis. And your vertical one, which goes up and down as shown here, that's your y-axis. And each axis will have a scale of numbers on it, and so this is where you get the number scale. It's not always necessarily going to be numbers, especially if it's a bar graph, but most of the time it is. And we'll learn later that the x-axis is where you put your independent or manipulated variable. The y-axis is where you're going to put your responding or your dependent variable. But each one of those gets a label. So this is your x-axis label. Now, key point in parentheses, usually you're going to have units. It's not always the case, especially with some bar graphs, but typically you'll have units in parentheses. Most of the time when you have numbers, there are always units attached to those numbers, so we will put those here on our graphs as well. And on the y-axis label, same thing. So you have your y-axis label, and there should be or usually will be units. And then within the grid or the kind of the graph itself, this is where your data points go. And if it's a bar graph, a line graph, you're going to have points, and they may do a number of things, but those points then get connected with a line. Now you can do a best fit line or directly connect point to point. That's up to your specific instructions. But no graph is complete without a title. And a title is supposed to give whoever's reading the graph a general idea of what the graph is about and what they should expect to see or learn from it. And that's it. So we will learn too that when you're giving a title to a graph, you can just use the x-axis label and the y-axis label to create a title, and you can connect those two. You'll say the y-axis, whatever that name is, versus the x-axis, and that's a perfectly fine title for any graph. So we'll learn a little bit more about that coming up.